Hey everybody, this is Perch. I do videos from time to time talking about changes or this character is being replaced by this character or so on. And one of the most common comments that I see are people who are like, Perch, you're missing the big picture. And the big picture is white dudes are getting replaced by women in comics. Not as the creators, although maybe that as well, but in the characters. They're trying to get rid of all the white men. They're trying to replace them with women, ideally black women, ideally black gay women, ideally black gay with some sort of like a handicap, like a I don't know, shorter foot or autism or something like that. That's what's going on. That's the true thing that's going on right now in Hollywood. It's all part of the woke apocalypse that is taking over all of comics, and that's what's going on. And every now and then I mention this, and people are like, "Ah, you're exaggerating. Nobody's really saying it." But by all means, I urge you. Like, if you look at the videos, like, hey, they're killing off Doctor Strange, and you look at a number of people come in there like, they're replacing her with a black woman. Just you see. And number one, the Doctor Strange movie with Benedict Cumberbatch is coming out. It turns out that's a white dude, and they're going to keep that as close as possible, especially with Benedict Cumberbatch looking like one of the more main stars that Marvel has in the movies. I mean, what are they going to make it Star Lord? That guy's a Republican. I'm just playing into it at this point. Um, you know, I don't think that's the main point of this stuff. And when it goes on, I think there's this interesting thing where a comics gets ideas in its head across the board. People who work in comics, and these ideas are weird how they get in there. And to use something maybe non-controversial, it's like, people limited series won't sell. If you put limited series and you promote it as limited series, then it won't sell. Well, you've seen lots of evidence to suggest that's actually not true. There was, I think, Jeanette, was there like there's some rumor that Jeanette Kahn didn't like you putting the color orange on things on covers because that it would not sell as well. Like there's a couple like weird things like that. There's been a lot of these little kind of urban legends as it pertains to comics, and people get stuck in their head. One of the ones that we're living with now, I've done other videos on, is this idea that, hey, if the movie audience is completely different from the comic audience, and there's no hope in trying to tie those together, it's just impossible. It's an impossible thing, so don't even bother. And these ideas get stuck in their minds, and then they tend to act upon that, and it's weird. Like, it feels like there's not enough people within the comics business going, "Hey, that assumption right there, is that true? Do we believe that? What have we tested it lately? Like, why do we think that's the case? Because I don't know. I mean, I think we could put the color orange on the cover and it will be fine. I mean, the thing has been on covers and it's sold. I it's just I don't. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of those people, and maybe because it's such a fast-paced business and you're just churning out content and everything else. It's kind of along the same lines of like, hey, there's no problem with producing 80 comics in 1 month. It'll be fine. It's like, let's hear some other ideas around the table. Like that seems it feels like that's where things need to go. Well, one of those ideas, which is true, which we've heard from interviews with Dan Didio, with Tom Brevoort, and then many people within the two big companies, is that here's where the logic goes. Once upon a time, a lot of these characters were created, and they were almost exclusively white men because they were created by white men back in the 40s or whatever it happened to be. And now comics has a problem in that the audience is shrinking because the audience is aging. And in order to capture kids or a younger market or teen market or 20s market, millennials, however you want to label it, in order to get those people to come in, they want to see other genders, other races. They want to see a world that's more reflective of the one outside their window. And so we need to start figuring out how to, introduce more of these characters into the comic. That's kind of how the thought process works. And the same thing is true with movies and other things. The whole casting controversy around Sandman. As an aside, with the Sandman controversy, because I did the video on that, and I still maintain, like, I have very little interest in watching it because I was never a huge Sandman fan, and a live action Netflix adaptation of something I wasn't that interested in is like, it's kind of doubling down on something I don't want. So I'm not terribly interested. But I think a lot of the people who are really up in arms, and when I say the people who are up in arms, I'm like the people making the really angry videos where like there's videos where people just shout, like they're like, the video is of them shouting. It's like literally shouting, not just with a raised voice, but like yelling into the microphone, like ah. And I feel like those people would not, one, they're kind of like me in that they wouldn't have watched the series in the first place. I'm not saying who's a real fan, who's not a real fan. I have a hard time believing they're sitting down to watch the show, period. Um, and so, they may not like the casting choice, but if they like, this is again my point of view. I actually I like the actress that they hired to play Death. I liked her from The Good Place, but I wasn't that interested. If I wasn't that interested in the show, and they cast people I didn't like, I feel like it would be pretty hypocritical for me to come in and be really angry about it because I wasn't planning to watch the show anyway. So it's like, eh. But the people I do feel sorry for in this whole world are the people who are really hardcore Sandman fans who just wanted to see a show of the thing they loved, almost one for one. And there are a lot of people in comics, by the way, comic customers, who are like this, where they would just love to see the animated, like high quality animation cartoon of the comics they read as they are. No, nothing like, they almost want word for word. They'd like to just pick up the comic and almost read the script just as it's being said on the screen. And I've talked to people in comics, writers and others, and they tend to dismiss that idea. Like, why, who wants to just do a one for one recreation of the comic? And the answer is lots of people. There's lots of customers who that's exactly what they want. They just want to see exactly what they loved in the comic come to life. Like quite a few people. They would like an honest adaptation. This is not just true for comics, it's true for books and all kinds of things. And it's one of those kind of assumptions that I think people make is like, you can't just adapt the book. Nobody will like that. It's like, I think most people will like that who are fans of the book. Now, maybe you say, well, that book or comic audience is too small, so we wouldn't make money if we just adapted it. But I don't know. Why don't you try? But anyway, those are the people I feel sorry for who just wanted to see that goth, pale, pasty white girl, literally white, like not white race, but white because she's just white. They just wanted to see that version of Death because they've been wearing around the T-shirt, the cap, the mug, the whatever. And I do feel like there's a group of fans who are like, I just wanted exactly what I read up there on the screen. And I get that. I completely get that. And I also feel bad for those people because by saying that, they get called racist and terrible, toxic fans and all the rest. And I feel like if you are a person who enjoyed a book, a comic, a game, and your point of view is, I would just like it exactly like what I read because I loved what I read. That doesn't make you toxic or racist or any of those things. It just makes you a fan. It makes you somebody who loved the work and you just want to see it one-to-one recreated. But there's always this like heaviness that gets applied to it. It's like, well, don't you want to see it evolve? I mean, no. No, actually. I just want to see it as I read it and remembered it and loved it. That's all I want. I think that's a fair. I think those people are. I think those people take a beating, kind of on both ends. Not only do they not get what they want, but then they get called a bunch of names for expressing what they want. And I don't think there's any bias behind that. It'd be like if they decided to do a live action Boondocks show, and they're like, well, we're going to cast a bunch of white people in this. You'd be like, no. I just and what if that was what they were doing, and then the directors were like, well, don't you want things to evolve? What's wrong with you? And it's like, no, I just want to continue to enjoy what I enjoyed. I feel bad for those people. I do. I think there's some bad actors in there. Again, people who had no interest in Sandman and now they're screaming at videos about the woke apocalypse and all this stuff, and those people I think are you're screaming in outrage, but I feel like the fans, the people who truly just wanted to see this recreation, they're getting the shaft in all of this, on multiple sides. I don't know. I've got two daughters, so I mean, if the world of the future is that like they're gonna have it easy and they're like we're just gonna give them work and money and jobs, then that's awesome for me because I can just then basically retire and then they get through college and then suddenly they get everything. Like if that sounds great. They can take care of me. I bought them toys. I read to them, so they'll of course share all their money with me, and it'll be great. Yeah, let's bring that future on. Otherwise, I've got two girls that will be teenagers soon, and my life's gonna suck. So I'm give me something to look forward to, people, please. But overall, I think there is this weird take in comics in Hollywood and these other places that say we've gotta change things in order for past wrongs to be right, or in order to kind of grow this audience. And I think that the part of it that is correct, you do need to grow the audience. That's true. We do need to appeal to more people. That's also true. But I don't. My feeling. It's only my own point of view. My feeling is if your primary strategy is, hey, we're going to take, say, Captain America here, and we're going to make Captain America a black woman, and then all the black women will now read the comic. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that strategy is sound, because I feel like a lot of black women will feel like that's pandering to them. And I think that, and they've also seen Captain America in the past. They know what Captain America looks like. So unless you have a really good story behind it, that's not going to work. And this is why, by the way, I think that when Rhodey became the new Iron Man, there was a pretty lengthy story around that, and it worked. And so nobody was like, why'd they suddenly replace Tony Stark with a black guy? It's like, well, there's, like 2 years worth of comics leading up to this that explains the answer to that question, that gives you that answer. And so it's the story that won it over, not the fact that suddenly Rhodey was black. It was the fact there's such a strong story behind this that you wanted to cheer Rhodey on. You're excited by this, and that's why it worked. That's why the character has some longevity. That's why today, and this is one of the, by the way, just as the weird conclusion to this whole story, um, you know, there's a decent amount of comic book customers of all races, by the way, and probably just based on demographics, more white than anything else, just based on kind of existing comic customer demographics, who wonder why Marvel isn't doing more with Rhodey today, who would like a War Machine comic, or would like to actually see Rhodey appear on a monthly basis. They're like, there's a healthy percentage of comic fans who are into that. It's kind of like with Green Lantern. You have John Stewart now in the as kind of the central figure in the new Green Lantern book, and this is I have if you did a demographics check of who was buying this new Green Lantern, I'd be willing to bet that the majority of readers buying it are white. And they are excited to pick up the adventures of John Stewart because John Stewart, like Rhodey, had years and years of build and story, and they're excited to see that story go on. These people are white. I mean, I'm sure there's other, all kinds of races who are reading Green Lantern, but it's not. I don't think that people are coming to this book going, well, now I'll read it because it's a black guy that's in the comic. I don't think that that's actually happening. I think people are saying, well, now I'll read it because the story looks good. This art is good. I was wondering what happened to John Stewart. I mean, that's going to be what I think bring people to the table. I think that Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp, as beautiful as that series looked, that was kind of a weird take on Green Lantern that seemed to struggle to find an audience. And this new Green Lantern is a lot more, I guess, in line with DC continuity and kind of what people expect from. If anything, that Green Lantern current version is a much safer bet as a comic than the one written by Grant Morrison featuring White Guy Hal. So is it the story? Is it the setting? I mean, it feels like kind of as I've done videos in the past about this. If you don't get the story right, if you don't give a good context for what it is that's going on and what it is you're seeing, you're likely to fail. So you need to put that part first, and then certainly figure out how to get different characters, different races, different genders, etc., all represented there. But if you do it in the opposite order, then it feels like you're very unlikely to make it work. You've got to bring both things. You got to bring the stories. You got to bring the characters. Diversity is fine, but make sure that you have a, a powerful hook, a powerful story, and don't forget the things you have. Again, you got there's a healthy amount of comic buyers that would buy a Rhodey comic, a War Machine comic right now if you put that out, and of all races. So maybe you ought to do that. I don't know. It's something to think about. Thanks for listening.